The emergency end of the Russian Federation has never been this close before. Everything happened suddenly. Drones destroyed high-value targets. Our revenge has struck with renewed force. The US and Ukraine shook hands. Production of mega UAVs has been launched. Trump kept his promise. The drone wall is being deployed. The decisive weeks have begun. Europe has put its trump cards on the table. Putin has lost. Pokrovsk has cornered him. The dictator is hastily postponing the date of his pseudo-victory. The madness of the Russian Federation is flaring up for real. Trump was briefed on something that made him snap. Lavrov is on the hook. Putin is next. And all of this happened just now. Hello, I'm Darina Hotsakalo, and we're getting started. Lightning-fast work by Ukrainian defenders. Russia is choking on the blows. Drones attacked Orel with unprecedented force.
After some consideration, they decided to shoot them down. Oh, another one went down.
In the sky over the region, it's a real fireworks show. Not a celebration, but the traces of battle. Red flashes tear through the air, drones circle above the city, debris falls right onto the streets.
Can we call the fire department?
Quiet.
Quiet. And who's gonna put that out?
Unbelievable. And what if it hit us?
All right, that's it. Let's go, damn it, let's go.
By the way, there are several Russian oil depots in Orel, Orel Naftoprodukt, and Stalovaikin, Steel Horse. The city itself is located about 160 kilometers from Ukraine's northeastern border. So there's more to come. In Russia, everyone is shouting about a swarm of drones, heading not only toward the Orel region, but also toward 9 other regions. Air Defense Forces intercepted and destroyed 130 Ukrainian fixed-wing drones. An incredible breakthrough. The world is giving a standing ovation. Ukraine has started producing interceptor drones together with the United States.
American-Ukrainian production, joint manufacturing. I hope that in the future we will have more.
It has also become known that in just a few weeks, a drone wall will be deployed in Ukraine to counter Russian Shaheds and Cabs. Europe has set a course for total support of Kyiv.
iTrade has already sent the system to Ukraine and expects it to be operational within a few weeks.
Initially, the system is planned to be used to protect cities and important facilities from Russian drones. Later, it may be deployed closer to the front to shoot down dangerous glide bombs, which are very difficult to intercept. Meanwhile, on the front line, our forces succeeded. Russia is backing away from its plans. Putin is backtracking. He postponed the deadlines for capturing Pokrovsk and Myrnohrad in Donetsk region by a month.
Now the Russians have to explain why they still haven't occupied Pokrovsk and Myrnohrad. We know that Putin postponed the orders to the Russians regarding the deadlines for occupying these settlements by a whole month. This is evidence that the armed forces of Ukraine have managed and continue to defend these settlements and the neighboring villages.
Nevertheless, at this very moment, the Pokrovsk direction remains the main focus in the context of the enemy's offensive. Alexander Sirsky reported on the operational situation at the front line.
On the approaches and directly within the urban area, there is ongoing combat with small enemy assault infantry groups, and less frequently, the destruction of light enemy equipment. The servicemen of the Ukrainian Defense Forces are doing everything possible to prevent the enemy from moving and gaining a foothold.
It is important to note that there is no talk of Russian control over the city of Pokrovsk or of the operational encirclement of the Ukrainian Defense Forces grouping. Meanwhile, the madness continues in the Kremlin, where preparations are still underway for the summit in Budapest, Hungary, a summit that, according to rumors, US President Donald Trump has either postponed or cancelled altogether.
We are counting on common sense and on the hope that Washington will refrain from actions that could escalate the conflict to a new level.
Later, Lavrov named the reason why the summit in Budapest was suddenly cancelled after his conversation with Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Allegedly, Trump was receiving behind-the-scenes reports. The head of the White House himself emphasized that he does not want to meet with Putin yet due to Russia's unwillingness to cease hostilities. Hungary and Prime Minister Viktor Orban are still set to attend the meeting. At this moment, Poland has stepped up its support. Columns of armored vehicles and trains loaded with ammunition are moving to the front lines. Artillery is advancing along the way, aviation is perfecting its strikes, Ukraine is receiving critical aid, and the Kremlin is feeling the pressure. Events are unfolding at a phenomenal speed. Warsaw has made its move. All the details about this are in the following report.
Over 120 billion zlotys, or $4 billion. This is the significant amount Poland has spent on aid to Ukraine since the start of the full-scale invasion. This includes both humanitarian and military support.
Poland was one of the first countries to supply Ukraine with tanks, ammunition, and defense equipment on a large scale. In 2022 to 2023, it provided, among other things, over 300 tanks, as well as armored personnel carriers, artillery systems, and air defense systems. Drones, mortars, assault rifles, and over 100 million rounds of ammunition.
10 airplanes and helicopters were also sent to Ukraine. Between 2022 and 2024, Poland provided Ukraine with 47 military aid packages. The value of the equipment delivered in 2022 alone amounted to 7.23 billion zlotys, and in 2023 to 2024, another 5.63 billion. Poland also provided more than 19,500 Starlink terminals, ensuring stable satellite communication for the armed forces of Ukraine. This accounted for almost half of all terminals used in Ukraine by the end of 2023. Poland's assistance to Ukraine is not the result of some romantic fascination, but is very pragmatic. Our neighbors understand that if Ukraine falls, Poland will be next.
After all, a fighting Ukraine gives Europe time to better prepare for threats. This time is needed, and we have no right to waste a single minute. We will be held accountable for every minute.
318 tanks were delivered to Kyiv by Warsaw. Among them were modernized T-71s, M1Rs, PT-91s, and Leopard 2S. This is more than anyone else has provided. The total value of gratuitous aid, including training, logistics, repairs, and medical support up to March of this year, exceeded $4 billion. Specifically, in 2022, it amounted to $1.6 billion, and in 2023 to 2024, $1.3 billion. Poland has also provided assistance. Poland's military aid, 586 armored vehicles, 137 artillery systems, 10 Mi-24 helicopters, 10 MiG-29 fighter jets, 287 man-portable air defense systems, 44 air-to-air missiles. Over 100 units of small arms, 89 mortars, 4 Grad multiple launch rocket systems, and more than 100 million rounds of ammunition. In addition to gratuitous aid, in just 2022 to 2023, Ukraine purchased weapons from Poland worth more than 2.2 billion euros. The largest contract was the agreement for 56 Krab self-propelled howitzers, of which 36 have already been delivered. The countries are establishing joint production of weapons and equipment. The parties have agreed on the joint production of 125mm tank ammunition. There are also plans for joint production of other weapons and military equipment, including the establishment of Polish company manufacturing facilities in Ukraine.
It is necessary to mobilize the industry. Polish and Ukrainian industries need to make joint investments, not only during the war, but also in order to develop our deterrence potential. These initiatives are very much needed. It is also very important for us to improve economic relations. We support Ukraine.
Poland has become the main hub where weapons are supplied for Ukraine. Also, during the war, more than 30,000 Ukrainian soldiers have undergone training on the territory of the country. With each year of the war, Poland's assistance and cooperation with Ukraine only grows stronger.
The apocalypse for the Kremlin has begun. The Russian Empire is cracking under the blows of Ukrainian technologies and strategies. Where proud military bases stood just yesterday, today there is only fire and chaos. The armed forces of Ukraine have delivered a series of precise, devastating strikes on the enemy's energy hubs and logistics. Missiles and drones are operating with surgical precision. Lights go out in cities, warehouses explode, and command centers lose contact one after another. Don't miss all the details about this.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
More and more Russian cities are plunging into darkness. If the Russians attack the Ukrainian power grid, Ukraine will attack the Russian one. The Ukrainian authorities warned about this, and the defense forces have clearly demonstrated it. This is what the Voronezh thermal power plant looks like now, for example. It was attacked on November 9th. Reports say there were at least 3 direct hits. After the explosions, part of the city was left without
electricity. They work on military equipment, including electronics such as communication and navigation systems. There are aviation enterprises there, as well as military and civilian ones.
And this is exactly the difference between Russian and Ukrainian strikes on the power grid. In addition to a deserved response, the goal of the Ukrainian defenders is to plunge into darkness those energy infrastructure facilities that support the operation of Russia's defense industry.
There are 2 such purposes in total. To show Russia that not only can they do it, but we can also respond in kind to certain things. And indeed, to try to stop their powerful and relentless machine and to undermine the vast and deeply entrenched military-industrial complex that is actively and continuously working against us in this ongoing war is no small task.
I think this trend will continue. That is, at first glance, it's like pecking at the liver, so to speak. Russian energy systems will continue to have various infrastructure elements gradually knocked out. At first glance, it might just seem nice that somewhere in Belgorod, for example, the lights went out, or in Voronezh. But let's think about it. In some ways, the configuration of the Russian energy system might be similar to ours, in the sense that power is supplied through the same power lines, and it can go not only to residential areas, as is commonly assumed, but also, for example, to industrial facilities and railway transport.
That's why all such attacks are not random. The goal is not just to respond, but to respond painfully, so that the facilities supplying power to the military-industrial enterprises of the aggressor country cannot fuel the Kremlin's ambitions.
When various elements of the integrity of the Russian energy system are gradually bitten off like this, it primarily means that somewhere a train will stop, a train that is supposed to deliver something the Russians need for the war, or there will be a blackout schedule at a factory. Factories that produce things the Russians need for the war.
And not all such enterprises are located deep in the rear, experts say. Many of these facilities are situated close to the Ukrainian border. For example, strategic Tu-95 MS bombers are repaired in Taganrog. And one of the manufacturers of components for the Russian missile program, specifically solid fuel for Iskander missiles, is located just 150 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. It is actually possible to plunge them into electrical darkness. There are undoubtedly such important facilities for the Russian military-industrial complex in the Moscow region as well. And why?
Even simply there in... Are you referring to the city of Moscow, which is the capital of Russia and one of the largest and most historically significant cities in the world, known for its rich culture, impressive architecture, and important role in global affairs? Finally, they'll realize that something is happening and that they need to do something.
In this way, Ukraine will kill not 2 but 3 birds with 1 stone at once. A just response is the paralysis of Russian military-industrial facilities and psychological pressure on the Kremlin. Sounds like the perfect target for the next blackout. The Kremlin is in panic, the Russian army is falling apart at the seams. Losses are enormous, the front is collapsing, the generals are silent, and Putin is on the verge of screaming. The dictator takes a desperate step, a new mobilization. Across all of Russia, there is shock and fear, families are crying, while Moscow talks about patriotism. Meanwhile, Ukrainian forces are holding the line and turning the front into a real hell for the enemy. Putin is throwing everything he has left into the fight, but every new recruit is just another number in the terrifying casualty statistics. Russia is burning because of its own decisions. Could this mobilization offensive be the last one for the empire of lies? Don't miss it. Shocking details coming up in just a moment.
The Ukrainian armed forces are taking out a large number of occupiers in Pokrovsk and in Rodinsk, a key settlement that supports the entire Pokrovsk-Myrnohrad agglomeration from the east. Ukrainian tank crews have smashed the Russian invaders to rubble. Similar reports from Pokrovsk, the hottest spot in Donbas, are coming in almost every day. October has already become the bloodiest month for the Russian group in the entire war. However, it seems that November will break even this record. As a result of the colossal efforts of the defense forces, Russia has suffered record losses. and as a consequence, a new mobilization. For now, it is hidden. This term should be understood to mean several things. It includes recruiting conscripts for contracts, as well as enlisting reservists to guard important facilities, which the Russians have announced in many regions. This is a sign that the current flow of contract soldiers in Russia has decreased. The recruitment of foreigners also does not compensate for the losses in battle. According to Ukraine's Center for Countering Disinformation, Pokrovsk has become the site of incredible Russian losses. According to reports from Commander-in-Chief Alexander Syrskyi, in their attempt to occupy this city, more than 30,000 occupiers have already lost their lives. And their number is growing every day.
The fact that Pokrovsk has become another graveyard for Russian occupiers is undeniable. And in general, no one is hiding the fact that the concept, not the strategy, of Ukraine's defense forces is to maximize, to deplete the enemy's offensive potential as much as possible, to inflict maximum damage on them, so that they don't have enough strength to continue and expand their offensive, so that these infiltrations don't turn into breakthroughs of our defenses.
As always, the Kremlin decided to solve the issue through deception, officially not announcing a mobilization, but in reality rounding up literally everyone the security forces and the military can get their hands on.
The draft, how is it being carried out? With hellish raids, ignoring all deferments, all supporting documents, basically disregarding everything I see. And these hellish raids are happening not only in Moscow, but now also in the regions. There are already reports of raids in Kazan and Khabarovsk. This is alarming, this is bad, because it's one thing if it were just in Moscow and Makhachkala, but it's a whole different matter if it happens in all the million-plus cities. This means that now they will simply cover the entire territory as much as they can, with police who will be catching all men of conscription age wherever they find them.
At the same time, the rule that used to apply, that conscripts do not fight at the front, is now a thing of the past. Currently, the announced year-round draft provides the army with a constant influx of people, first and foremost for recruitment purposes. By the way, everywhere it is.
Forced recruitment. So you can put some pressure on this new recruit, and in this way, perhaps
force him to sign a contract. And then he is no longer a conscript, but a contract soldier. And as a contract soldier, as is well known, under Russian law, he can be sent directly to the front line.
Russian human rights activists say that the methods of the Russian armed forces have not changed, but the scale of such contract signings has increased once again. If previously these were still local initiatives, now the order has come from above, to forcibly keep as many people in the army as possible.
This covert mobilization is ongoing. It hasn't just started. I repeat, it hasn't ended either. It's been going on since the fall of 2022. It's just taken on a new form now.
Another method devised by the Russian military machine is to call up reservists to guard strategic facilities. Analysts explain that the scheme is designed for the gradual deployment to the front of everyone who has ever had any connection to the army. To start with, these reservists will replace the current convoys, whose fate has already been predetermined.
In this way, the state can take contract soldiers who are currently in Region N, send them to the front, and instead regularly rotate reservists to replace them. 2 months, 2 months, 2 months, that is, these training sessions, which they will conduct for reservists to guard these enterprises. And
after several rotations, those same reservists will be sent to the front, and if there's enough time, they will undergo field military training. If Russian losses do not decrease, the briefing will take place right on the bus on the way to the war. Putin needs a constant supply of cannon fodder.
The enemy has thrown literally everything they have at Pokrovsk, but they continue to suffer such devastating losses there that even a numerical advantage of up to 20 times in some areas does not allow them to take control of this city.
That's where we'll end our broadcast for today as we continue to closely follow the most important events to bring you the news first. Don't forget to subscribe. See you soon.